Well, this week we're going to continue our look at righteousness and wickedness from the Book of Proverbs. And I got to tell you, I was going to tell you a little story before I get into that. I usually come to the church on Saturdays just to pick up the mail, set up a few things, make sure everything's ready for Sunday. And this week, when I arrived, I found that our mailbox had been stolen. And we didn't, this wasn't an easy thing. We had a steel box, it bolted in, encased in concrete block. This was not a simple thing for them to take. But you find that sometimes people are very determined in their wickedness. Okay, that's what I have found. And so this might be a good moment for me to let you know that you can still give securely in person and online, but I wouldn't recommend mailing anything to the church at this moment until we get a new box. Not that I'm really concerned too much. We don't get a lot of stuff in the mail. They probably got junk mail. Maybe if I'm lucky, they got a bill and they can pay it for us. That'd be okay. But when they open the box, they're going to be very disappointed. But this experience did make me realize a proverb, though, that Solomon missed. Okay, this is one that Solomon missed. The wicked steal mailboxes, but the righteous leave them secure. And so just figured I'd throw that one in for us. Now, actually, what we do find in Proverbs and is we get more than just a list of do's and don'ts. It's easy to say, okay, if you're a good person, you don't do this. If you're a bad person, you do that. But we get more than just a list of do's and don'ts to let us know the difference between righteousness and wickedness. What we're given is usually a group of comparisons, illustrating the contrast between the righteous and the wicked. We're given a word picture, so to speak. And most of the Bible was written by people who spoke Hebrew. And I would suggest that thought in Hebrew, that's the way they thought, because that was their language, that was their culture. And one of the dynamics of Hebrew thought and writing is that they will often use antithetical parallelism or juxtaposition when explaining things. And that means they'll put two relatively opposite statements side by side to point out how they contrast. They'll give you both opposites. Now, to us, this makes the writing seem extreme. Maybe from an English mind point of view, when you're reading the Bible, it's as though everything's very black and white. There's no shades of gray. It's light versus dark, good versus evil, the spirit versus the flesh. Two opposites are always being compared. And you see this a lot in the Old Testament, but you do see it in the New Testament as well. Particularly, it seems to me, you see it more in the teachings of Jesus. I think he, had some Hebrew thinking in his upbringing. Okay. And you see it in, I think, the writings of John, the Gospel of John and the books, 1st, 2nd, 3rd John. He seems to use this concept more, James as well. It's a very Hebrew style of writing or of teaching. But the place you see it the most is in the Book of Proverbs. That's where it really stands out. And many Proverbs are just straight up antithetical parallel statements designed to give you kind of the boundaries of two opposites by describing them side by side in similar sounding sentences. And basically, the Bible gives us word pictures describing two opposite things, so that we can understand the difference between those things by examining them next to one another. Okay, you look at them side by side. However, in those word pictures, it puts them in usually similar sentences, so that we will focus on the difference between the objects, not the differences between the words or the sentences. Sometimes the grammar can distract us from the meaning of the sentence. Got to watch out how you write it. Now, aren't you glad you came for today's grammar lesson? That's what you're looking for. That's why we have free coffee, just to make sure you stay awake for the grammar lesson. That's the thing we provide. Now, you will find that Proverbs often uses this contrast to present two characters or two situations side by side. In this way, they used the contrast to highlight the differences between opposing behaviors or opposing consequences. And so today we're going to look at a lot of opposites, the opposites of righteousness and wickedness. And this is a major subject in Proverbs. You know, the number one topic, if you wanted to count up how many verses talk about it, the number one topic in Proverbs is the difference between wisdom and foolishness. I mean, it's a book of wisdom. I mean, that's what it's about. But the number two, probably the right behind it, is this concept of righteousness and wickedness. And so we're going to look at quite a few parallel statements from Proverbs today, but I've kind of broken them up into categories, and I'm hoping that'll help us to understand them better. And firstly, I want you to see that righteousness, the righteous and the wicked, they approach life from two different viewpoints. It's more than just behavior. They approach life from a different mindset. And I think that's what we will see in these Proverbs this morning. Proverbs chapter 29, verse 27. An unjust person is detestable to the righteous, and one whose way is upright is detestable to the wicked. Now, right off the bat, we find that the righteous and the wicked detest one another. I mean, two opposites. They detest one another. They are from two opposite viewpoints, and they cannot stand the viewpoint of the other, the behavior of the other. It's not just that the righteous and the wicked have some different behaviors, but they are opposing one another. And I was thinking on this, and you know, it's kind of reminded me of y'all Star Wars fans, a couple of you, maybe you've heard of Star Wars, okay. One or two of you. You know, when Anakin and Obi-Wan are dueling on the planet of Mustafar, Anakin has turned to the dark side. He's technically at this point become Darth Vader. He doesn't have a suit yet, but he's on the way there. He has to, you know, it's trial by fire to get to the suit. That's the whole thing. But some of you got that, okay. Obi-Wan tells him that the Emperor is evil, to which Anakin replies, "From my point of view, you are evil." Well, this is what the Bible is telling us about the righteous person and the wicked person. They see each other as evil. They detest one another. They oppose one another. And so this is the difference. The righteous and the wicked see each other. The righteous will see the wicked person as evil, but the wicked person will often see the righteous person as evil, as an opposition. And as a result, they find each other detestable. Proverbs chapter 29, verse 10 tells us, bloodthirsty men hate an honest person, but the upright care about him. The wicked and the righteous have opposing views on how they see an honest person. Not just how they see each other, but how they see an honest person. See, the bloodthirsty person, the person who's prone to violence, the person who's into wickedness and sin and hate, they will hate the honest person because it's going to cause them trouble. But the upright, the righteous person, the person who's doing what's right, will have care. They will have concern for the honest person. They will want to help the honest person and care for them. They have different viewpoints of how they approach that person. Proverbs chapter 13, verse 5 and 6. The righteous hate lying, but the wicked bring disgust and shame. Righteousness guards people of integrity, but wickedness undermines the sinner. And here we get a different flavor of opposites, in that the righteous hate lying. They don't want it around them, but the wicked bring disgust and bring shame with them. They're comfortable sitting in the pig pen. They don't mind it. They do want this disreputable quality in their life. The righteous guard people of integrity. They protect and look out for one another, kind of what we saw in the previous verse. But the wickedness undermines the sinner. And understand, they'll undermine one another. There is no honor among thieves. If they will harm a good person, how much more will they have no problem harming the sinner? And how much will their wickedness, if it'll hurt you, how much more will it hurt them? It will undermine their life. And so we see this concept that wicked people do harm to themselves and to one another whenever it suits their purpose. But you are safe with righteous friends, but you're never safe with wicked companions. Proverbs 14:2, we see, whoever lives with integrity fears the Lord, but the one who is devious in his ways despises him. The righteous and the wicked have opposite views of God. Not just opposite views of each other, not just opposite views of other people, but opposite views of God. The righteous person fears the Lord. They have a respect, a reverence, an awe. They recognize God's goodness and God's greatness. But the wicked person despises the Lord. They despise him. They can't stand him. They despise the righteous God even more than they do his righteous people. So you see this kind of when you get to the book of Revelation, the people who are shaking their fist at God, hiding, saying, let the mountains fall on us and hide us from the one who sits on the throne. They despise God because of their wickedness. Proverbs chapter 12, verse 20 and 21, we read, deceit is in the heart of those who plot evil, but those who promote peace have joy. No disaster overcomes the righteous, but the wicked are full of misery. The difference between the righteous and the wicked is their heart condition. Their heart condition. It's not just about what they do on the outside, but it's also about what's in their hearts, which is why we must be born again, okay, to receive a new heart. This is the whole concept we have in the Christian concept. The wicked person has a heart full of evil plans, and as a result, their heart is full of misery. They're bitter, they're unhappy. But the righteous person has a heart full of peace and joy, so even when there is trouble, it isn't a disaster to them. The internal peace and internal joy that God gives the righteous can continue regardless of what the world does. It's not based on what this world does. It's based on Him. Proverbs 29:7 we read, the righteous person knows the rights of the poor, but the wicked one does not understand these concerns. See, the righteous understands the needs of those who are less fortunate, and they look out for the rights of all people. They'll look out for the rights of the poor, the righteous person. They have empathy. They can think about what's best for the individual, even if it's not best for them. Even the poor person who cannot do them any good. But the wicked, they do not. They only value people based on what they can get in return. So being concerned about the rights of the poor makes no sense in their mind. They just don't get it. It's incomprehensible to them. Why would you care? They're of no value. Proverbs chapter 12, verse 12, the wicked desire what evil people have caught, but the root of righteousness is productive. This might be saying that the wicked person's a socialist. Yeah, okay. They want the benefits of what other wicked people have worked for. They're greedy. They want to take, what other people have gotten. Kind of like pirates, always stealing the other pirate's treasure. I mean, that kind of a dynamic. And they're willing to take it from them. However, the righteous person is productive. They go out and work to produce what they need or what they want, rather than just looking to take it away from someone else. You see this distinction between the wicked and the righteous. Proverbs chapter 22, verse 5, there are thorns and snares in the way of the crooked. The one who guards himself stays far from them. The righteous person guards their path. And we've already seen that in other passages that we've looked at. But they guard their path, so they are not walking in the way that will put them among the thorns and the snares. That's how they stay on the righteous path. They look ahead. Of course, they keep their eyes on Jesus. I mean, remember when we're running the race, they look ahead. And by doing so, they avoid the traps, they avoid the snares, they avoid the thorns of sin that lie on the crooked path. However, the wicked person follows the crooked path without thinking about what might lie on the road ahead. They don't think about it. They don't look ahead. They don't see the thorns and the snares that will soon trap them. They just go on ahead without recognizing the danger. The righteous are careful about what they do, but the wicked are careless about their future. Proverbs 29:6, an evil person is caught by sin, but the righteous one sings and rejoices. The wicked person is trapped in their sin. They are caught and they can't get out. But the righteous person can sing and rejoice because they are free. from those traps. They've been set free. So what's the difference between a righteous person and a wicked person? In these verses, we see that there's more than just a few behaviors. It's not just outward behaviors. What we see is that they view the world from opposite perspectives, and they each approach life differently. They approach life differently. The righteous person and the wicked person approach life differently. They have a different viewpoint, a different heart, a different mindset, and that causes them to behave differently. It's what's on the inside that causes them to be wicked on the outside, or what's on the inside that causes them to be righteous on the outside. This is why we come to Jesus. He wants to do more than change our behavior on the outside. He didn't just give us a list of rules. Jesus came because he wants to change our hearts. He wants to change our minds. He wants to make us right with God on the inside, so we will then be able to live right on the outside. Now, the difference of their mind effects between the two, the righteous and the wicked, the different effects, how each of them think and what they say. Let's continue in Proverbs. Proverbs chapter 10, verse 32, we read this. It says, "The lips of the righteous know what is appropriate, but the mouth of the wicked only what is perverse." The righteous person knows the appropriate words to say. They know the right thing to say at the right time. But the wicked person only knows how to speak evil things. They only speak evil, that which is perverse. They don't even know how to say good words at the right time, but their mouth is continually flowing with the evil that is in their heart. See, our words express what's in our heart. And so the person who's always saying evil words, well, guess what? That's what's flowing from their heart. The person who's always saying good words, well, that's what's flowing from their heart. Proverbs 12:5, "The thoughts of the righteous are just, but guidance from the wicked is deceitful." If a righteous person gives you advice, it'll be the kind of advice that leads you in the right direction. It'll lead you to justice. It'll lead you into goodness. But if a wicked person gives you advice, understand it will be misleading. Even if it sounds good on the surface, under the surface, it will be misleading. Their advice always puts you on the wrong path, no matter how they package it. Each will give you insight, but the insight they give comes from their heart, from their mind, from the way they think. Proverbs 15:28, "The mind of the righteous person thinks before answering, but the mouth of the wicked blurts out evil things." Most teenagers are wicked, by the way. They just blurt out. Okay. Can't keep it to themselves. Just as the righteous person guards the path they walk on, they also guard the words that come out of their mouth. The righteous person guards their mouth. They think before they speak. The wicked person just blurts out any answer that pleases them at the moment. They have no filter. They have no impulse control. They cannot control their mouth. Now, here's a thought, this kind of warning for us. Never trust a person who's always quick to answer without thinking. If they won't stop to think what they're saying, don't trust their answer. Also, be aware of anyone who demands an immediate answer from you. Maybe you've had a boss like this or known someone like this. They will never wait for an answer. They want an answer and they want it right now. You know what? That's probably a wicked person you're dealing with, because they can't wait. They answer everything immediately. They expect you to answer everything immediately. It shows that they're not in the habit of thinking through their answer. A person who's in the habit of thinking through their answer will understand when you say, "I want to think about that." The one who's quick to answer is likely wicked, but the one who wants to think about their answer is likely more righteous. Proverbs 21:29, we read, "A wicked person puts on a bold face, but the upright considers his way." One of the dynamics with wicked people is they will try to make it look good. They will try to appear confident as they go to their destruction. Their pride will not allow them to consider the possibility that they could be wrong or allow them the opportunity to repent. They'll put a good face on it while they're destroyed. The righteous person thinks about his actions and will lead where those actions will lead, and is willing to change course if that's what they need to do. If they find out they've been wrong, the righteous person is willing to change. The righteous person is not afraid to repent if they find they've been wrong. But the wicked will be determined in their wrongness. Proverbs 19:25, strike a mocker and the inexperienced learn a lesson. Rebuke the discerning and he gains knowledge. Because of their stubbornness and hardness of heart, the wicked person is a slow learner. The wicked person is a slow learner. And usually they need to experience pain before they'll change their ways. It takes enough pain to get them to change. But the person who is discerning, the person who's willing to examine right and wrong, for them, a simple rebuke is usually enough to cause them to change course. With the wicked, you usually have to beat the concept through their thick head. They're stubborn. That's what it takes to get through to them. But to the righteous, a word to the wise is sufficient. They're teachable. They're able to learn. They're able to change. So in this, we see that the righteous person has knowledge of what is appropriate. They know the right words and actions. You might say they have a certain amount of wisdom, and they know what's the right time to do things. You might say that in this, they display the wisdom that we find in Proverbs, but the wicked do not. They are impulsive and have evil words always on the tip of their tongue. They don't know how to learn from their mistakes. The wicked are slow learners. Now, that leans into another area of difference between the righteous and the wicked, which, we've kind of touched on, but that is their mouth. Have your mouths ever gotten you into trouble? Okay, okay, haven't we all? Haven't we all? We know that our mouths can often get us into trouble, but sometimes your mouth actually saying the right words can also keep you out of trouble or get you out of trouble. Right words at the right time. Proverbs chapter 12, verse 6, the words of the wicked are a deadly ambush, but the speech of the upright rescues them. Proverbs 12:13, by rebellious speech an evil person is trapped, but a righteous person escapes from trouble. You can be ambushed and trapped by your own wicked words. You ever been trapped by your words? Okay, yeah. We've probably all been there at some point. But the righteous words can actually rescue you and help you escape from trouble. If you know to say the right thing at the right time. It's like when you're married, you got to learn to say, yes, dear. Yes, dear. Okay, it's righteous words will save you a lot of trouble. Okay. Slightly different topic. Have you ever talked your way out of trouble? See, that's a sign that you were using or wise enough to know the right words for that moment. The righteous do that. The righteous know the right words. They know what's appropriate. The wicked person only knows the evil words that keep getting them deeper and deeper in trouble. You ever watch someone just they keep digging it deeper? They're already in trouble and they're just digging the hole bigger. Just watch you ever watch court TV or some of the criminals before judges, some of the little videos of that? Just watch some of the people. They're about to be sentenced and they're still arguing with the judge. That's a bad plan. Okay, it's a bad plan. Their own words are ambushing them and leading them into deeper and deeper trouble. That's what we're hearing in this description. Proverbs chapter 10, verse 6, we read, blessings are on the head of the righteous, but the mouth of the wicked conceals violence. Proverbs 10:11, the mouth of the righteous is a fountain of life, but the mouth of the wicked conceals violence. Sounds familiar. There is a publicness to the righteous that benefits everyone around them. That when a person lives right, it benefits their friends, it benefits their family, it benefits their neighbors. Blessings are on their head, and they are like a fountain of life. This doesn't just bless them, it blesses the people around them. If you're always giving good advice, isn't that a blessing to people around you? If you're a person who's always speaking positive and speaking good and have the right words for the right time, that's a blessing to the people around you. However, the wicked are always hiding violence in their mouth. You may not see it until the trap is sprung. But watch out, when they open their mouth, someone's going to get hurt. That's the way the wicked are. Proverbs 13:2, from the fruit of his mouth a person will enjoy good things, but treacherous people have an appetite for violence. This is a parallel concept in that righteousness brings good things to enjoy out of his mouth. The righteous person, he speaks and it brings good things to enjoy. But the evil person devours with his mouth. One gives good things, but the other consumes by their appetite for violence. Now, in these verses, we see a difference between the righteous and the wicked is more than just the words they say, but it's also that they know which words are appropriate for the moment and how it affects the people around them. The righteous person is going to affect those around them positively, blessing them. They know the right words for the moment. The wicked is a danger, not only to themselves, but to everyone else around them as well. Proverbs 11:30, we read, the fruit of the righteous is a tree of life, but a cunning person takes lives. Now, this is a pretty simple biblical concept, but I think sometimes maybe we wander away from it. Righteousness gives life, but wickedness takes life. The wages of sin is death. That hasn't changed. Wickedness still kills everything it touches. Sin is still destructive, but righteousness provides life to all who benefit from it. And this is for the person who does right or wrong. Yes, if you do right, God will bless that. It will give you life. If you do wrong, you will be calling judgment upon yourself. You will face the consequence of your sin. But it also affects everyone around the person, around the righteous or around the wicked, because that righteous person becomes a tree of life to give, but the wicked person takes life. So we've found that both the wicked and the righteous affect the people living around them. It's not just about personal decision or how it affects them, it's how they affect the community, how they affect their family and their friends. And so we see this is Proverbs chapter 12, picking up in verse 26. A righteous person is careful in dealing with his neighbor, but the way of the wicked leads them astray. Proverbs 11:9, with his mouth the ungodly destroys his neighbor, but through knowledge the righteous are rescued. Now, we saw last week in looking how to determine a wicked person, we saw one of the things to watch for is, are they a bad neighbor? Because that's usually a sign of a wicked person. That kind of continues in this theme. The righteous person will be careful how they treat others. They'll be careful how they treat their neighbor. Just as careful as they are about the path they are traveling, they'll be careful about how they affect you. But the wicked person gladly leads people astray. The same thorns and traps they're walking into, they're happy to share. The wicked person's not concerned about what happens to you. The wicked destroys their neighbor, but the righteous have the knowledge necessary to ensure their rescue. This difference in how the righteous and the wicked affect their neighbors, their community, everything around them changes how society itself sees the righteous and the wicked. And here's some thoughts on how society sees it. Proverbs chapter 10, verse 20, the tongue of the righteous is pure silver, but the heart of the wicked is of little value. Proverbs 10:31, the mouth of the righteous produces wisdom, but a perverse tongue will be cut out. Wish they don't cut people's tongues out much anymore, but maybe some people might need it. I don't know. That's what it says. But a reasonable society will value what a righteous person has to say. But they won't want to hear from a wicked person. They want them to keep quiet. They will want to silence the wicked person because of the trouble they cause. Proverbs 11:11, we read this, a city is built up by the blessing of the upright, but it is torn down by the mouth of the wicked. Proverbs 12:8, a man is praised for his insight, but a twisted mind is despised. The righteous person will be a blessing to society. They will build up and they will be praised. Every year our society gives out awards. They recognize people who do good things in our community. They used to have one that was 12 who care, I've seen different awards given out in our community for people who do good things. When's the last time you saw them give out a award for wickedness? Here's an award for who did the most harm. Now, I think they do have a Darwin Award for whoever's the stupidest, I think. Okay, I have heard of that. But I've not heard of an award for wickedness. If they did, it'd probably be a congressional award. But okay, we'll leave that for a different story. But we do praise those who do good, those who build, those who lift up, and we despise those who destroy. Proverbs 13:17 we read, the wicked envoy falls into trouble, but a trustworthy carrier brings healing. If you were sending a delegation to negotiate a peace treaty, maybe we'll just pick two nations at random, like Iran and Israel. You're going to send them to do a peace treaty. Would you send a wicked person who never knows the right thing to say, who's always stirring up trouble, who has ulterior motives? Or would you want to send a trustworthy, competent person who knows the right words to get the job done? So even the secular world would recognize the difference. If you're having negotiations, you want someone who knows how to negotiate. You want someone who knows the right things, the right words. Society understands that you don't send a fool to do important work, but instead you want the right person for the job, a person you can trust to get things done. Proverbs 29:16, when the wicked increase, rebellion increases, but the righteous will see their downfall. When your society allows wickedness to run rampant, when the number of wicked people in your community increases, in your nation increases, then the result will be a society in rebellion. The more wicked people you have, the more rebellion you have. The more they will resist. There'll be no respect for the law, crime rates will soar, and there will be unrest and rioting in the streets. That's what the picture we're seeing here in Proverbs. However, the righteous will live to see the wicked fall. Wicked societies have a tendency to self-destruct. There have been a lot of societies in history who've come and gone. Their wickedness always leads to their downfall. But the wicked, while they're falling, the righteous rise to replace them. The righteous will rise to replace them. So in these verses, we see how society itself is affected or reacts to the values of the righteous person and the wicked. This isn't just about individual preferences, it's about a group dynamic. We recognize, as a group, this is how it affects us. Proverbs chapter 11, verse 23, we read this, says, the desire of the righteous turns out well, but the hope of the wicked leads to wrath. Proverbs 12:3, no one can be made secure by wickedness, but the root of the righteous is immovable. Your heart and your mind will determine the path that you choose, but the path you choose will determine your destination. What is in the heart of the righteous person causes them to go on the path that turns out well. It may not turn out the way they planned. I find God often doesn't go the route I expected. But the right path leads to a good destination. What's in the heart of the wicked will always cause them to walk on the path that leads to wrath, to turmoil, and to destruction. Wickedness will never provide a secure future. I bet life insurance is really rough for mob bosses. Okay? It will never provide, wickedness will not provide you a secure future. It just doesn't work that way. No matter how promising the path may seem at the start, no matter what it promises you, no matter what wealth you might think you're going to get, no matter how you think life's going to go, wickedness will always end in destruction. But righteousness will stand the test of time. The heart of the righteous and the heart of the wicked determines their choices, which in the end determines their outcome. One leads to stability and the other leads to destruction. Now, finally, what we see here in Proverbs that we might consider are some warnings. You might consider these warnings related to the wicked or even advice to the righteous. And so Proverbs chapter 24, picking up verse 15. Don't set an ambush, you wicked one, at the camp of the righteous man. Don't destroy his dwelling. Though a righteous person falls 7 times, he will get up, but the wicked will stumble into ruin. This is actually a warning to the wicked person. The author is warning them not to waste their time setting an ambush for the righteous. Don't attack them, because no matter how many times you try, in the end, the righteous are going to come out on top. Right? You like movies where the good guys win? Okay, well, Proverbs kind of works that way. This isn't to say that their wickedness doesn't cause damage, because indeed it does, but the final result will be the righteous rising and the wicked falling. Another thought from this is that the righteous will survive even a well-planned ambush, but the wicked will just accidentally stumble to their own ruin. Doesn't even take plans to kill them off, because they've got their own plans. It takes a lot to bring a righteous person down, but the wicked fall easily. However, there's also warnings for the righteous. This is Proverbs 25:26. A righteous person who yields to the wicked is like a muddied spring or a polluted well. Don't roll over and let the wicked have their way in society. Don't just let them have their way. Even if you are a righteous person, if you let wicked people have their way, it just pollutes you and makes you dirty. That's the description we're given here. You may have been clean, but their wickedness will pollute you. Instead, we must stand firm in always doing what is right, even when it means resisting the wicked. Sometimes to be righteous, you have to resist wickedness. Stand up against it. Proverbs 28:1, the wicked flee when no one is pursuing them, but the righteous is as bold as a lion. One of the consequences of righteousness and wickedness is how it affects your ability to deal with society. The wicked tend to feel guilty, and so they'll run away and be paranoid even when no one is pursuing them. Now, if you're suffering from paranoia, remember, you are not alone. Okay. Yes, that was bad. Have you ever seen a person who's frightened every time a cop car goes by? Now, unless you're one of America's most wanted, they probably aren't actually out looking for you. But the guilt of their sin causes them to run. On the other hand, a righteous person has nothing to be afraid of, so they are bold. We had an occasion a while back where a person walked in to a group of us. A group of us were here, and they walked in and said they needed some help and were looking for maybe a shelter or rehab or something. And so our people, were very gracious and wanted to try and help them. And so called, started trying to call around, who can we find to give you a shelter? Where is a place that you could go? And called the police hotline just to see if we could find a thing. And the minute the word police was mentioned, they were out of here. Now, we didn't call the police to come get them. We didn't ask for an officer. Why did they react that way? Why? Because the wicked run even when no one's pursuing. They feel guilty. They don't want to deal with it. But the righteous are bold. When our mailbox was stolen, I had no problem calling the police. Didn't bother me a bit. Actually, I had to call, it took an hour and a half. First I called the post office. I figured they'd want to know. Turns out stealing a mailbox is not a federal offense. Stealing the mail in the box, that's the federal offense. And so I actually had to go through several people with the post office before I convinced them, well, there was mail in the box, so at least as far as I know, there would have whatever mail was delivered Friday would have been there. So, but no, you have to deal with the police if they steal your box. That's a Phoenix matter. But, the officer came, took the statement. I was more than happy to give the statement. Didn't bother me a bit to go out and talk to the officer. Why? I've got nothing to be afraid of. The righteous are bold. The wicked run when no one's pursuing. And that is a dynamic we see in our own lives. The wicked will feel guilt, even for things that aren't reasonable, and fears that aren't reasonable. But the righteous can stand boldly. That should be a warning to us. You don't want to live in that guilt. You don't want to live in that misery of constantly being afraid. You want to be able to live guilt-free and freedom from fear because you haven't been living in the wrong actions. Proverbs 13:22. A good man leaves an inheritance to his grandchildren, but the sinner's wealth is stored up for the righteous. This fits with all that we've seen, but should implore us to care about our future descendants. See, the righteous person looks ahead. We've seen that. They look ahead at the path that they're on. They look at where they're going so they're not tripped up in the traps and the snares and the thorns. But this extends beyond just their own life, but into the lives even of the future generations. The righteous person looks ahead. They want to leave behind a legacy, and that may include financial wealth. I think that's what's implied in this particular verse is this concept of inheritance to future generations. They've been wise and right in using their wealth, so they have something to pass down. But I think it can also be an inheritance of wisdom, an inheritance of righteousness, an inheritance of your relationship with Christ that you're sharing with your future generations, your children and your grandchildren. You want to pass these down, and I'll tell you, that's more valuable than money. But the sinner who does not look ahead to see what's coming will not leave a legacy of benefit to future generations. In fact, God may well see that any wealth they leave behind is given over to the righteous so it can be used for his purposes. That's what this verse indicates. Proverbs chapter 12, verse 7. The wicked are overthrown and perish, but the house of the righteous will stand. The end result of wickedness, the end result for the wicked, is that God will overthrow them. Past everything else, I mean, they may live their whole life, but someday judgment day's coming. God will overthrow them. He may be patient. He may give them every opportunity to repent. He's long-suffering. He wants them to come back and do what is right. God will also consider, we see in the whole of Scripture, He'll consider the impact their life has on future generations. He'll leave the weeds so that He doesn't uproot the wheat. But rest assured, in the end, the wicked will account for their wickedness. God will see that they are overthrown. On the other hand, the house of the righteous will stand. And I believe what's implied here is that God will make it stand. He watches over the righteous for their good. Now, hopefully, this has helped us all have a more biblical understanding of the difference between the righteous and the wicked. It's more than just a few outward behaviors. It's the very core of our heart, the core of our mind. It's how we approach God. It's how we approach other people from within our heart. It's the choices that we have internally that determines the course of our life and our outcome. It probably doesn't take a lot as we go through these things to figure out which side of the equation you might be on. I mean, as you're looking at, okay, I've been here, been there. Any reasonable person would want the benefits of righteousness and want to avoid the traps and the dangers of wickedness. But the problem that we all face is that we have all had wickedness living in our hearts. See, as I go through the scriptures, I find that all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. As I go through these lists of wickedness, every one of us can probably find something that hits us where we say, ooh, that was me. That's why we need Jesus. See, the Proverbs is giving us the illustration. It's showing us this is the difference between the righteous and the wicked. But when we get to the whole Bible, when we get to the New Testament, we find that's why we need Jesus. He brings the righteousness that we are lacking. And He takes the wickedness that's in our hearts and He cleans it up. He takes the evil in our minds and He renews our minds to make us right with God. So He takes away our wicked thoughts and our wicked feelings and replaces them with His righteousness. See, that's the process of sanctification. First, we come to Him and He makes us clean. He washes us clean. And then He goes through that process of changing us, renewing our mind. Check out Romans 12 sometime if you want to look at that further. But renewing our mind, renewing our heart so we're made right, so that he's not just dealing with the outside symptoms, those outward behaviors that we look at and call sin, but he's dealing with the inside, the wickedness that's in our hearts, the wickedness that's in our minds, to remove that and replace it with his righteousness so we can walk the right path with him. See, God changes our hearts so we can do right when we couldn't before. So if you need Jesus to do that, if that's where you're at this morning, you're saying, ooh, I've got several of these wicked things in my life, you know what? Jesus can fix it. Don't be discouraged. That's why Jesus came. That's why he went to the cross. He paid the price of our sin. He went into the tomb. He buried our sin dead in the tomb. And then he came out alive to offer us new life. And in him we can have that new life. In righteousness, we can have what we didn't have without him. And so if that's where you are this morning, I'd like you to encourage you to take that opportunity. Thank you for watching this video. If you live in the greater Phoenix area, we would love to have you come and worship with us in person any Sunday morning at 9:30 a.m. The Meadows Baptist Church is located at 3701 West Beardsley Road. That's the side road of the 101, just west of 35th Avenue. We would love to have you pop by as we celebrate Jesus together.